Hello students. So in today's video we are going to learn about Business Studies Chapter 2, that is forms of business organizations. So before starting this chapter, let me tell you that we have already completed Chapter 1 and I have already provided notes of all this explained video. So please do complete all your notes as you have to prepare yourself for your forthcoming exams. So get ready with your all notes. So in today's video we are going to learn about forms of business organizations. That means how business organization formed. So if you or one is planning to start a business or interested in expanding an existing one, an important decision relates to the choice of the form of organization. So in introduction here it is given, a business enterprises or organization is an organization which is engaged in some business or commercial activity. And every business enterprise is separate and distinct unit of business. That means a business enterprise is an institutional arrangement to conduct any type of business activity. And every business enterprise is a separate and distinct unit of business. So the enterprise may be run by one person or association of persons. It may be based on formal or informal agreement among persons who undertake to run the concern. So this every business entity adopts some forms of organization to carry out its activities. So next is the forms of enterprise. So see, every business enterprise may be broadly classified into three categories, and these are private, public and joint sector enterprise. So let's understand what is private enterprise. So private enterprise is an enterprise which are owned, controlled and run by private individuals or single individuals. The main objective to run these enterprises to earn profit out of business activities. And this private sector enterprise have two types, like non-corporate form and corporate form. And again, these non-corporate and corporate is divided into 5 forms of organizations. And this under this non-corporate form, the sole proprietorship, partnership and joint Hindu family business. And in corporate form, there is cooperative society and joint stock company. So again, this public enterprise is an enterprise owned and operated by public authorities, and they were called as state enterprise or public enterprise. And in these undertakings, the whole or most of the investment is done by the government itself. And the aim of this undertaking is to provide goods and services to the public at reasonable rates. Though profit earning is not entirely excluded, they also earn profit, but in a limited. And these enterprises have the following forms of organizations, and they are departmental undertaking, then statutory corporation, then government company. And then third categories of business enterprise is joint sector enterprise. So joint sector enterprise is a form of enterprise between the private sector and the government, where management will generally be in the hand of private sector and overall supervision will lie with the board of directors, giving adequate representation to government representatives. This joint sector enterprise ensure the use of development technology and resources of government as well as of private sector. So let us understand this form of private sector enterprise. So this private sector enterprise has 5 forms. So number 1 is sole proprietorships. So sole proprietorship means a business owned, financed and controlled by a single person who is recipient of all profit and benefits. That means sole proprietorship organization are also called as individual proprietorships and sole trade or single entrepreneurship. And it is the oldest form of organization. It is as old as civilization. And historically, it appears that business first started with this form of organization. And it is found in every country of the world. And this sole trader makes his organization. And it is found in every country of the world. A sole trader is the sole organization of the business and looks after every activity of the enterprise. He takes all decisions by himself. And it is a sort of family business where other members may lend a helping hand. And the sole trader may employ servants for his help, but decision making and risk taking remains with the owner itself. So it is one of the main business or single ownership business. And the success or failure depend upon the intelligence or competence and decision making capacity of the sole trader. Further, this sole trader has some features. Number 1 features of the sole proprietorships is single ownership. It is wholly owned by one individual. That means a sole trade business is owned by one person. And there are no business associates or agent of the sole trader with whom he has to share his profits. Or the owner spend his own money as capital. And he is not barred from arranging funds from outside. But this should not be a part of capital. The second features is control. Sole proprietor has full power of decision making. That means there is no separation between ownership and control. The owner controls the business himself, and he prepares various plans and executes them under his own supervision. And in small business, ownership and control remain in the same hand, while this separation is possible in large scale business. The next is no separate legal entity. That means a sole trader and his business are not different entities as is the case in joint stock companies. Law does not separate the owner and his business. Both are the same in the eyes of law. There is no difference between the person and the business, but the law looks them as the same. Next is unlimited liability. The liability of owner is unlimited. In case the assets of business are not sufficient to meet its debts, the personal property of owner can be used for paying debts. That means in this form of organization, the liability of the owner is unlimited, and the owner is responsible for all the losses arising from the business. And this liability is not limited only to his investment in the business, but his private property is also liable for business obligations. The next point is no legal formalities. Not required to start, manage and dissolve such business organization. No legal formalities means like there are no legal formalities for starting this type of business. There is no separate law governing or sole proprietary business. There may a provision for undertaking a license, etc., but for starting some types of business, otherwise there are no legal formalities for starting or closing this form of organization. So our sixth features is sole risk bearer and profit recipient. He bears the complete risk and there is nobody to share profit or loss with him. That means all the risks of sole trader business are borne by the owner himself. Since he has no business associate, he cannot share his risk with anybody else. But the risk factor will always keep the owner vigilant and cautious. So next is merit, or you can say disadvantages of sole proprietorship. Advantages of sole proprietorship business. So see, it is easy to start and close. It can be easily started and closed without any legal formalities. That means sole proprietorship is the only form of organization when no legal formalities are required to be performed. Anybody wishing to start a sole trade concern can do without loss of time. And this business is absolutely free from legal formalities. On the other hand, if the joint stock company is to be formed, it needs the services experts to get into incorporated, and it involves a lot of labor or money. But sole proprietorship can easily be dissolved, and whenever the owner wants to close the business, he can do so without perform any legal formalities. The second advantage of sole proprietorship business is quick decision making. A sole trader is not required to consult or inform anybody without his decision. That means all important decisions are taken by one person itself. He can take prompt decision. He will not let an opportunity to slip out from his hand. But if more than one person is involved in this decision making, then there is a delay is bound or to occur. And number third advantage is sense of accomplishment. There is a sense of personal satisfaction. That means in sole proprietorship business, a person have a sense of personal satisfaction. They don't have to worry about other partner or anything in the business, but they have the full satisfaction of themselves. Then fourth is unlimited liability. So the liability of owner is unlimited. In case the assets of business are not sufficient to meet his debt, the personal property of owner can be used for paying debts. So in this organization, the liability of the owner is unlimited, and the owner is responsible for all the losses arising from the business. Then is no legal formalities are required to start, manage and dissolve such business organization. That means there is no legal formalities for starting this type of business, but they can start by their own. But a small provision for taking a license and etc. for starting some type of business, but otherwise there is no legal formalities for starting and closing these forms of organization. Then number 6 is sole risk bearer and proprietorship. That means all the risks of sole trade business are borne by the owner itself, and since he has no business associate, he cannot share his risks with anybody else. The risk factor is always keep the owner vigilant. Then next is limitation or disadvantages of sole proprietorship business. Number 1 is limited financial resources. Funds are limited to the owner's personal savings and his borrowing capacity. That means in a sole trader entirely depends upon the limited resources of his family. There is a limit of which a single person can invest. Yes, and he tries to raise funds from relatives or friends. This is not a reliable or adequate source. So another method of raising funds is from financial institutions. And this institution provides loans by getting security or property or some other assets, etc. So since a sole trader is not in a position to offer securities for loans, so he does not get enough help from his the source. So he will not be able to carry out his expansion plans for want of funds. So limitation of finance is a major handicap for sole trade business. Next is limited managerial ability. Sole trader can't be good in all aspects, yes, of business, and he cannot afford to employ experts also. That means one person may not be expert in each and every function of the business, and he will not be able to devote sufficient time to all types of activities. A single person cannot engage them in all types of activities. But he will not be depend upon paid employees. Yes, and the employee may not take such or much interest in as the owner himself can take. The managing capacity of the proprietor is limited, and in the present competitive world, complexities of managerial jobs are increasing every day. The sole proprietor may not be able to use the service of expert for want of resources. So one person will not be able to supervise effectively. On the other hand, his limited resources will not allow him to use the service of professional people because he has the limited resources. The limited managerial capacity will hinder the growth of the concern. Then third point is unlimited liability. Of course, sole trader compels him to avoid risky and bold business decisions. That means the liability of the sole proprietor is unlimited, and his private property can also be assigned for meeting business obligations. So a loss in business may deprive him of his other private assets also. Unlimited liability also restricts his workings, and he tries to be cautious in taking risks, and it acts as a deterrent to the growth of his business activities. Then number 4 is uncertain life, death, insolvency, or illness of a proprietor affect the business and can lead to its closure. And that means the business continues so far as sole proprietor is there. In case of his mobility or death, the business is discontinued. And the successors of the sole proprietor may not have an aptitude or ability to continue in the business, and the closure of a business will cause inconvenience to the consumer, and it will also result in social loss also. Then fifth point is limited scope of expansion. Due to limited capital and managerial skill, it cannot expand to a large scale. See, a sole trade business is not suitable for large scale business, and this business depends upon the talent and skill and competence of one person only, and the managerial needs of a big business cannot be made by one individual, and the decision making of a large business requires collective thinking, and this is not possible in the sole proprietorship business. A single person cannot think of every aspects of the business. Hope you understood this topic, and in my next video we will discuss about Hindu undivided family business. Thank you.